Hey guys, this is Dan with Gears and Gadgets. Thanks for tuning in. Back with another video a day till this channel hits 100K. I think this is like video 27 in a row now. Something crazy. Can't believe I've been able to keep up with it, but I have. There was a comment yesterday on the video that I made about things that Ford got right over GM, comparing my outgoing Ford F-150 Power Boost to my new GMC Sierra. This is the Duramax 3.0 diesel. The comment was that he couldn't believe that I didn't mention FORScan in the list of things that Ford gets right over GM. It deserves its own video. If you're not familiar, FORScan is a tool that you can download. And when you do things like put larger tires on your truck, you can jump into the computer, make the changes, and calibrate the speedometer to what the actual tire size is. It makes a big difference. You can also go in there and change a bunch of different parameters in the truck. And in my opinion, it was amazing to be able to go in there and do that kind of stuff. Now, a lot of people probably wouldn't be comfortable doing it, but once you get into the FORScan world, you don't want to go back. But the bigger conversation, I think, is around these new trucks and the global B architecture. It's a whole GM thing where basically the computer system is so locked down that you can't change anything. I'm really against this, like, completely, because I feel like not only should you be able to go in there and make changes to, tire sizes and things like that, but to have these computers locked down to the point where you can't go in and change anything really puts the manufacturers in a position to create paywalls for virtually everything. I actually did, and I'll show you guys here in a minute, go through a super expensive process to get the speedometer calibrated on this truck. To look at this from the other side, the manufacturers, I do think these vehicles are starting to get so complex that maybe there's an argument for locking these things down. You have automatic braking, you've got lane keep assist, you've got self-driving, you have all of these technological advances that, yeah, maybe you get to a point where you start modifying the vehicle beyond those parameters and it creates like a separate safety hazard. I think I would be a little more comfortable with that explanation if the dealerships were willing to help. What I mean by that is that you don't just roll into a dealership and say, hey, I changed my tire size, can you just do a quick change on the computer system, without, first of all, them probably just telling you no, or second of all, them charging you for their time. Worst, they log it in the system and say, hey, your warranty is now void because you changed the tire sizes on your trucks. Now, they really can't legally do that in terms of the Moss-Magnuson Act. They can't just blanket void an entire warranty. That doesn't mean that they won't do it and then you'd have to fight. I personally tend to just fall on the line of like, I bought it, I should be able to make changes. And sure, if I go in there and nuke an entire computer system because I'm an idiot, then no, they shouldn't have to cover that under warranty, but I should still be able to do it. Now, the problem with locking it down so you can't change tire sizes is that you're actually encouraging passive odometer fraud. When people change their tire sizes, most people are going to be more annoyed by their speedometer being off than they are wanting to commit odometer fraud. So when you go and make these tire changes, it's a lot of people, most people, if there's an easy path to adjust speedometer, are just going to take that path so they have a better driving experience for it. Their calculated MPGs on their dash will be right, their speed will be right, their odometer will be, everything will be right. By locking it down, you're basically just telling your customers, like, sorry, you can't change any of that stuff. And because of that, people are just going to ride around with the different tire size. And that's a huge problem for the aftermarket when it comes to buying a used truck. If it has larger or smaller diameter tires on there, that odometer is going to be wrong. And that's going to make a big difference once these vehicles push like 100,000 miles. You could be several thousand miles off in those odometer readings. What I did with this truck was I spent $899 on the speed calibrator from Rough Country. It was not sponsored. I bought it before I took the truck on a road trip from Phoenix to Boulder, Colorado. This runs up into the engine bay, hangs off to the side here, so it's actually, honestly, you would barely even know that this wasn't an OEM computer component, and it plugs in to basically intercept the signal from speed sensors and all of that to correct the speedometer. And it's actually installed up behind the wheel well here. Super, super easy install. You hook it up to your PC. It is a PC app, and make all of the calibration changes on the computer here. You plug it in and it just works. That is what's necessary to, as of right now, I think it's the only product on the market to make those speedometer calibration changes in the truck so that everything is registering the right way. So now when I'm driving, everything on the dash is correct and it works the way you would expect it to. Now what's interesting is I've just been talking about the Banks iDash recently, made quite a few videos on this. The cool thing about the Banks iDash is they actually have, where if I wanted to, I could change one of these gauges to say speed, and that speed would correct. You could basically put your tire size in here. The appropriate speed will be displayed up on the iDash, and then you would at least know this is saying I'm doing this, but in reality I'm doing that, and you could keep yourself on the right side of the law in terms of speed. That's great, but that doesn't solve the issue for making sure that your odometer is reading the appropriate mileage. And that's where I have a real problem with this global B architecture nonsense. I would argue that by law, they should make that very easy to get in there and make those changes for tire sizes. So the Banks iDash is a great solution as like a kind of workaround to having to spend, geez, almost $1,000 on the Rough Country setup to actually get the calibrations to be correct. But I think Rough Country, their solution is the right solution to make sure that you're doing it on the up and up and that you're having the proper odometer readings and all that. So what do you guys think? I'm kind of in the middle. I sort of understand the need to lock things down with how complex these vehicles have gotten over the years. And there's so many different computers that are communicating with each other in these systems that they're very complex. But I don't think that manufacturers should be able to lock you out from lifting your trucks, lowering your trucks, bigger, larger, smaller, whatever you want to do tires, and supporting that. Now, maybe there needs to be some sort of process where they can say, we'll support tire sizes up to 35, and then after that, we will make the changes, but then we'll start deactivating certain components like automatic braking, things that are on the vehicle that they haven't tested above and beyond. Whatever the case may be, maybe there is a part where they say, we can't support over X. And what's crazy now is that you can buy trucks that are maybe base model trucks that have smaller wheels and tires, but they sell a much larger tire on a different trim level. They should at the very least support for free you going in and them changing it to any one of the tire sizes that they already sell on a model of that truck, because that means they've tested the systems to work in those configurations. But I think they should even go a step further and support even larger tire sizes. But like I said, maybe go through and deactivate some systems or make you sign a waiver for some systems. There should be a process, but right now, the problem you have is that dealers are not manufacturers. So the ability for them to have a process in place that is widely executed well is almost impossible. They already can't do it with service from one city to another, one dealer to another. You can have wildly different experiences depending on where you live and what kind of dealer support you have. So that becomes the problem, is by not letting the consumer or speed shops or things like that, aftermarket tuners, being able to do those things, you really kind of create a completely locked down market. I think the conversation really goes down the line of like right to repair. And by locking these systems down to the point where not only can you not make those changes, you can't change your tires to a different tire size, you can't do these things yourself. The dealerships, a lot of them just won't even do it for you at all. So it's not even like you have an option to go to the dealership to get it done. You just don't have a choice. So it's worse than not having the right to repair. It's like a prohibition against DIY modifying anything yourself. They've got it locked down to the point where like, you're just dead in the water. So not having an option, it's like the right to repair argument is, I don't have the right to repair, so I have to take it to the dealership. If you can't even take it to the dealership, like, what is that? I didn't want to add in FORScan into that list of things because it's not really a manufacturer thing from Ford, but Ford giving you access to those systems and not locking them down to the point where FORScan can't get into it is definitely a bigger benefit to the Ford side of things. But I'm still sticking with the fact that this GM truck, and I'm just talking this one, I know there's plenty of people out there who are owners of GM trucks that have grenaded, that are super pissed off, diesel owners who probably have had nightmares. But for all of you Ford fanboys out there who get really pressed when I say that I'm having a great experience with this, and you're saying like I should have never left Ford. I left Ford because my experience was abysmal. I hated owning that Ford F-150. It was more of a nightmare than it was enjoyable. I had a good time with that truck, but I had way more not good times with that truck than I did have good times with that truck, and I couldn't have been happier to get rid of it. And this truck's been great for me. I'll leave it at that. So let me know in the comments down below. What do you guys think about these modern electronics on vehicles? No doubt there's like, we're not going backwards, but should the manufacturers, and should there be a law that states that the manufacturers need to give you kind of the same idea of like right to repair, the ability to get in there and make those kinds of changes yourself? Let me know in the comments down below. With that being said, thank you guys very much for tuning in. If this is your first time tuning in, please hit that subscribe button down below. Remember, likes go a long way to help support the channel. I will see you guys tomorrow, Mother's Day.